So for the input-output module, I want to make a quick video for this class. Basically, the idea behind input validation, and then also we'll go over exception handling, is assume that your user is both an idiot and malicious. Meaning that you want to catch for them to try to either hack your system as well as just putting in bad data. I mean, again, most users are going to do the right thing and follow the instructions, but some won't. So you want to catch those, and this is also kind of called idiot-proofing your software. And assume whenever you have input and output, either from a database or from users or from files, there's always going to be exceptions. So for this example, we're basically going to do input and output, input for both validation and exception handling. So first off, I'm going to bring in a scanner to read in values. So I'm going to initialize the scanner. And this is going to take in values from the console, so system.in. And then for me, and this goes with any programming language, I always like to close the code right away. So I have this input out scanner. Close it right when I initialize it. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to read in a value. So just to kind of copy the assignment, which this assignment I'm not asking for Java. So say read in. Just on this assignment, we're just going to look for the pseudocode. So I'm going to say read in wage value. Actually, I'm just going to print, because this way we can have this stuff on the same line. And then I'll do scanner or int. This should be a float. Wage equals scanner dot next int. And then so I'm going to run this just to see if it works, because I usually, for my work process, usually I only type a few lines and I compile it and run it. So those are $10. And I got an error because it should be next float. So that ran in fine. And then we'll also do the input, enter hours worked. And I'm going to make this a float as well, even though usually it kind of implies that's whole numbers, mainly because it's easier to multiply floats to floats. Sometimes you get errors. So we'll do hours of floats. And then now I want to put the validation in. And so for the validation, I'm going to see if, so I'll initiate some values. So say float, min wage. And even though the example in the book says $7.50 an hour, minimum wage in Arizona is now $10 an hour. So I'll say AZ min wage, and then the max wage, I think I said $18.50. And notice I put an F after this. This is basically telling the compiler that I'm doing a floating point number. And then so I'll put there if wage is less than min wage, or wage is, should be just a less than, greater than max wage I'll put a little message saying system.out print line invalid wage, and then since I want to kill the program after this, which you can also do is kind of a better way to do it is put a loop around it and then keep on do a do loop and keep on looping until that. So actually I'll actually do that instead since I have it already set up. Invalid wage. So I'll kind of move this around to kind of get the error checker. And then I'll put a do loop in here. So I need to initialize the wage so I can go run this. So I'll do while wage. So I'll just copy and paste this thing. And then I'm going to tab this. So I'm going to run this. So compile. Let's see, what's my error? Oops. Semicolon. And I think I've told many of you guys before, but forgetting semicolons is like the biggest boo-boo of them all. I do that all the time. Let's see what's wrong. Oh, so the problem is wage has not been declared yet. So I need to declare wage. The scope is between for wages in between these braces. So I actually need to declare wage outside here. So I'm going to make wage equal to 0. And then get rid of this float here. And then run it. So I'll first put the wages and I'll do $1 to test it, and then I'll do 20. Do it again, and now I'll do $11. And then now it goes to entered work. So I'll do the same thing for this one as well. So I'll move hours out to here, equals to 0. And then I'll put a do loop in here. Get rid of the float. While I think the hour range was between a float, min hours, so I'll actually make this -1, so it's kind of still invalid. Min hours equals 0, and then float max hours equals 40, so I guess this employer doesn't want you to work overtime. And then, so I'll do min hours. So while hours is less than min hours, or hours is greater than max hours, and then also put the if statement in here. So if, and I can just copy and paste this. I'll copy and paste this again. And just change wage to hours. And then, just kind of as an output, I'll finish this off. System.out.println. I'll say your gross pay is, and then it'll be, so I don't really need to calculate this, save up this value, so I'm just going to do wage times hours. Now notice I have this in a parenthesis. And the reason why I do that is because it will, like orders of precedent, it will calculate this, then add this. If I don't have the parentheses here, it'll basically just add I think wage as a string and then convert the float to a string. And so let's run this. I'll save it. Compiles and run. So I'll do wage, and I'll do wage is $10 an hour. Hours worked. We'll do 40, so this should be 400, and you made $400. And also you can put a little $sign here if you want to see the values. So this is basically input validation. Now also I want to do exception handling. So to do exception handling, I'm going to surround this space with what's called a try-catch. Now try-catch basically will run something until it sees an error, and then do it. And so for the try-catch, you need to actually give it an exception. And so I tab this in. And so I have a try. This portion up here is a try, so it's going to just keep on running until it gets an exception. And then for the catch I'm going to put in, I actually have to cut and paste this, is input mismatch exception. And so basically this says, okay, this is looking for an error as far as the input, so which is going to be next float. And so this is basically looking for, if I expect a float and I type in a string or something like that. So say for example, and I'll say, I would do invalid system.out. I'll just say totally invalid value closing program. And there's actually better ways to handle this. What I could have done was do a try catch around just the input values in the loop, and then call something called continue, and then we'll just continue running the loop. But let me run this. And what am I missing? Oh. I need to figure out where this is from. So I need to actually put an import here. So I'll do import. And Java Intel input exception mismatch. I kind of paste that just a second ago. And so I save this, compile it, looks like it ran. Let me try running this and see if it works. So usually when I test it, I'm just going to do a valid case. So I know that $10 an hour, $40 an hour works. So I'm going to run it again. This time I'm going to do a junk value. So blah, 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 blah. It says totally invalid program, closing program. And that's what it does. So if you put in a different value here, so again, to kind of reiterate what we covered, we went over validation and exception handling. For validation, we basically check to make sure the input values, and you can just basically you'll just loop until the value is correct. For exception handling, you use the try-catch syntax, and basically what you'll do is you have an exception handler in here. This one just prints out a message, but sometimes you can have it where it's called a graceful exception handling, where it basically kind of does like a smart thing as far as getting it up and going. So I hope you enjoy this, and hope you guys have a nice 4th of July.